What's your favorite episode of Star Wars? Everybody has a favorite. You can't even pretend that you don't. Well, I can't hear you, so I'll start with mine. I've always been pretty partial to Episode 12, The Case for Rebellion. But there's something to be said for going all the way back to the beginning and starting with Episode 1, A Wind to Shake the Stars. Oh, what's that? What Star Wars am I watching? Yes, I can hear you now. Let's just go with it. What Star Wars am I watching? Watching? Who watches Star Wars anymore? That is so 1977. Here in 1981, we listen to Star Wars on the radio. Or, if we're not in 1981, we listen to Star Wars on compact disc. Look, I got a TV with a built-in VCR. I don't pretend to be up to date on things. Anyway, I'm talking about the Star Wars radio dramas.
A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, there came a time of revolution, when rebels united to challenge a tyrannical empire.
Then all the Zoomers look up from their TikToks on their iPhones and go, "What's a radio drama?" And I say, well, look, it's like watching a TV series, only you don't watch anything, you just listen. Before television, families gathered around the radio and listened to their favorite stories and performers. Kind of like an audiobook, except with only dialogue and sound effects rather than prose. And the Zoomers, who are a diverse generation and not the device-obsessed stereotypes I've made them out to be, turn to me and say, "Look, I may not know a cathode ray from a Betamax, but I'm pretty sure by the time Star Wars came out, television was a thing. It might have even been in color." And you know what, Zoomer Strawman, you are correct. But National Public Radio wanted to be hip and cash in on the overwhelming popularity of Star Wars, and when you're National Public Radio, the only way to do Star Wars is on the radio. So NPR were basically being retro hipsters by taking a dead format popular in the 40s and using it to adapt a movie that was also based around a dead format popular in the 40s, the movie serial. In fact, adapting it this way kind of helps solidify its connection to that era. The film could mimic the style of the serials with its text crawl recap and cliffhanger-inspired situations, but at the end of the day, it was a standalone feature film and conformed to the conventions of that medium. It was a 2-hour movie designed to be digested in a single sitting. The radio play was a 13-episode series, and because of that, you could argue that it captures the feeling of serials better than the movie ever could. It really was stretched out over the course of 3 months. The opening narration each time really was recapping what happened last week. The trash compactor scene could actually be a real cliffhanger.
Try and brace the walls or something!
Hey, wait a minute, give that pipe over there!
Over there!
Luke, Leia, Han, and Chewbacca can find no escape.
It's actually kind of a genius fit. And I guess George Lucas thought so because he licensed the rights to Star Wars to KUSC for $1. Granted, it still cost a lot of money for them to produce it, but at least they already had the legal rights to the story, characters, music, and sound effects from Star Wars. And I gotta say, I love it. Now look, I'm a pretty recent convert to this whole thing. I always knew they existed. My first box set of the movies from 1995 came with a coupon book for Star Wars merchandise, and the radio dramas were right there. But it wasn't until recently I ever heard them myself. After The Last Jedi rekindled my interest in Star Wars, I was looking all over the place for new Star Wars things to consume. Ah yeah, there's the sound of people bitching in my comments about The Last Jedi. Yeah, just go ahead, I'll be sure to read them all. I dug out my 16-bit Super Star Wars games. I finally completed the collection, and I beat all 3 of them for the very first time. And I sought out the radio dramas. So, you've seen the original Star Wars movie. You've seen the 1977 version, the 1981 version, the 97, the 2004, the 2011, whatever that McClunky thing is. And you're asking me, why should I care about this? If I want the Star Wars audio experience, why can't I just turn on the movie and close my eyes? Well, for starters, when you add up all the episodes together, the Star Wars radio drama runs about 6 hours long, so they've taken the original material and expanded upon it significantly. The radio drama was written by Brian Daley. If you read Star Wars novels, you might recognize the name. He wrote some of the earliest of what would become the expanded universe, like the Han Solo adventures. Some of the new content is based on deleted scenes, but some of it's brand new. So even if you've seen the movie 1,000 times like I have, or if you've read the novelization like I have, this is still going to be a completely new experience. Now, I've kind of put myself in a difficult position here. I'm trying to review an audio production in a video format. So normally in my videos I will put up clips of something I'm reviewing while I talk over it. If I try to do that in this situation, things get a little hectic.
Fighters off me for a few more seconds.
So I'm still going to give you clips of the audio drama itself. And I'm going to overlay it on stills from the movies so you have something to look at and something to contextualize it. But I just want to warn you right off the bat that it's going to sound a little different. Do you really think NPR got Harrison Ford and Alec Guinness into a recording booth? No, they didn't. But they did get Anthony Daniels to play C-3PO. And you're already rolling your eyes. Of course they got Anthony Daniels. They always get Anthony Daniels.
Repair? They'll have lubricants. Over here! Help! Help! Please help! Over this way!
Okay, maybe so. But they also got Mark Hamill to play Luke Skywalker. And this is before Mark Hamill was known as a voice actor. Having the main character of Star Wars reprise his role definitely lends this some legitimacy.
Well, if there's a bright center to the universe, we're on the planet it's farthest from, Tatooine.
Beyond those two, though, none of the other actors from the movie are in this. Well, R2-D2, Chewbacca, Greedo, they're voiced by sound effects, so they sound exactly the same, but everybody else is recast. And you might be thinking, that's not that big of a deal. You've seen the Clone Wars, you survived without Ewan McGregor and Natalie Portman. But here's the thing, in the Clone Wars you get James Arnold Taylor doing his best Ewan McGregor impersonation. There's a certain continuity in Star Wars productions, but the Star Wars radio drama treats Star Wars more like a stage play. The words on the page are a blueprint, but each new company that comes along is going to put their own personal stamp on it. So they're not trying to convince you that James Earl Jones is there playing Darth Vader, they're just going to hire the best actor for the role, regardless of whether it sounds anything like what you heard in the movie. Having Mark Hamill and Anthony Daniels there certainly helps anchor things, but it's still going to sound very, very different. So speaking of James Earl Jones, let's look at Darth Vader. Brock Peters is a terrific actor. I mean, come on, he was in To Kill a Mockingbird. And he certainly has the proper vocal timbre for Darth Vader, but it's a vastly different, more theatrical performance.
You will never be able to crush the rebellion.
I didn't have you brought here to listen to more of your pointless ranting, Your Highness.
However, if you're just comparing it to the first film, where Darth Vader isn't this coolly mechanical presence he is in the sequels, you can definitely find some commonality.
Commander, tear this ship apart until you found those plans, and bring me the passengers. I want them alive!
Carrie Fisher is another member of the original Star Wars cast with a very distinctive, strong, husky voice. She plays Princess Leia with stoicism and sarcasm. The first thing you'll notice about Anne Sachs is that she has a much higher pitch, and perhaps because voice is all she has to work with, amps up the character's emotions quite a bit.
No, Tarkin, please, I beg you, in the name of mercy, please!
Firing sequence.
No! No! No!
But perhaps the most acquired taste, if you will, of the audio Star Wars cast is Perry King as Han Solo.
Marching into the detention level is not what I had in mind.
But they're gonna kill her!
Better her than me. Come on, fur face, you're gonna ruin our reputations.
If you ever wanted to experience Star Wars with Harrison Ford's understudy, here you go. And I'm not even saying that in a patronizing way, it's kind of true in a sense. Perry King does have a Star Wars pedigree. He was one of the actors to audition for Han Solo in the movie.
And you let me know when you find it.
To do that, they'd need at least 1,000 ships with more firepower than I've ever seen. If they had a weapon like that, I'm sure I would have known about it.
Obviously, he didn't get the part. But you can imagine this is an alternate universe where George Lucas went, oh, I don't really want that American Graffiti guy. I'm thinking more Lords of Flatbush. Harrison Ford's Han Solo is suave, understated, cool. In fact, he's such an undisputed hunk, it's hard to question his annoyance in Empire.
Who's scruffy looking?
Yeah, I mean, the guy's traversing the tundra and doesn't even have a single hair out of place. He's a freaking model. Perry King plays the character as much more weaselly, much more of a huckster, the kind of guy you'd expect to have tons of empty potato chip bags strewn all over the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon.
Whichever of those geniuses back there thought of having the blast doors shot ain't getting a promotion for it.
We'll be at Alderaan pretty soon. I told you I could outrun those Imperial slugs. Hey, don't everybody thank me at once.
I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's just different. And after a while, it really starts to grow on you.
And do you happen to know what a green pilot's life expectancy is in combat? Huh? A minute or so.
At least I'll try. On your crack pilot, a veteran, why can't you
Because I used up my time. And more. Long ago.
In fact, you might be able to argue that it makes him less trustworthy. Or at least it would if they didn't have Ben Kenobi keep shoving his eventual change of heart down our throats.
Well, there is something more to Solo than meets the eye. I sense that he's not just another Corellian smuggler or minor outlaw. The fact that a rough-and-ready fellow like Solo chooses such a pastime does indicate another side to him.
Now, this version of you I keep hearing in my mind is saying, okay, so they have voices. But how could this possibly work? We're talking about Star Wars, a movie that became famous partly because of its pioneering visual effects. This is true. It's also true that George Lucas as a filmmaker is much more interested in telling stories visually than he is with dialogue. In fact, he'll be the first to say that he sucks at writing dialogue. So, what's the sense in taking Star Wars' greatest strength and replacing it with its greatest weakness? Well, I'd argue that's part of the creative challenge. It's fun to see how they can take the same story and tell it in a completely different medium, lacking sight.
Over my dead body.
Yeah,
I'll bet. Rest in peace, Guido. I can shoot just as well under a table as a crossed one.
They had to come up with some very creative ways to tell the story without visuals. In some cases, that meant simply taking the actions and having the characters describe them, no matter how awkward that might seem.
Are you having difficulty breathing, Marty? Is your throat constricted, as though some force were at work?
I think that's part of the charm, though. People don't actually talk like that, but it's better than not understanding the story. There are other methods, too, like the whole Battle of Yavin is reframed so that it takes place primarily in the command center on Yavin 4, through Princess Leia's perspective as she discusses the battle with General Dodonna while listening to the comm chatter.
Are you all right? I got a little cook in that fireball, but I'm okay.
Oh, Red Fight is better than an even chance against those heavy guns, Your Highness.
But if the Imperials send out TIE fighters for ship-to-ship combat, what then?
Well, then our hopes would rest almost entirely with Goldflight.
Red Leader, this is Red 5. I'm going in again.
See, that's pretty clever. Another classic wordless section of the movie is R2-D2 on Tatooine getting captured by Jawas. Obviously that wouldn't work, so they switched it over to C-3PO instead, since he can actually comment on events.
I don't suppose you happen to have seen anything of my counterpart, a rather short asteroid. He was heading off in that direction the last time. Stand here under this conduit. Well, might I ask what you're going to do?
And since he let slip where R2 is, the story follows as normal. And of course you have the iconic final scene of Star Wars, which is always without dialogue. Well, can't very well do that here, so hope you enjoy the throne room scene with Luke and Han talking the whole way through.
Hey, look at all these rebels. We better not be last on the dinner line.
You're supposed to be serious.
But of course, what's really exciting about this is how it expands the story. Now, I'm not going to go through every single change and expansion as much as I want to. That would take forever. But the fact of the matter is, I've been coming back to this video, writing and rewriting this script multiple times over the course of a year and a half, because part of me just wants to be that friend who plops you down on the couch and goes, I'm going to make you watch this series that I love. Only in this case, it's, I'm going to make you listen to this series that I love. So it's hard for me not to make this video 6 hours of me just sitting here with my arms folded while the radio drama plays in the background, and once it's over I go, you get it? I could go over every single little change that I think fleshes out the story, or I find funny, but I'm not. Like how C-3PO and R2-D2 disguise themselves as maintenance workers to avoid the stormtroopers on Mos Eisley.
Come on, I haven't got all day. I'm on my way out.
Oh, yes, we are here to see if you need any maintenance jobs done.
Maintenance?
Maintenance. We belong to the Skywalker Technical Maintenance Service.
Or how the labor supervisor on Princess Leia's ship can't get C-3PO's name right.
R2-D2 and counterpart, right?
Oh, I beg your pardon, sir, but I am C-3PO, Human Relations Droid.
When I want to hear from a droid, I'll say so. You know how to behave among humans, 3CPO? Move out, 3CPO!
Moving out, sir. We'll do our best, rest assured. And the name is C-3PO, sir. That's C... Come on, R2.
Or how Admiral Mahdi spends the entire series puffing Tarkin up over the power he wields with the Death Star, and ultimately convinces him not to evacuate during the final battle, leading to his death!
You are close to treason, Motti.
Is it treason to point out that you could demand a position of authority second only to that of the Emperor?
Still, perhaps caution is warranted. Prepare my ship in case it seems more advisable for me to depart the Death Star.
This battle station is the source of your influence and power. If you show that you can be made to abandon it, you undermine your hope of gaining supreme rank in the Empire.
But I'm not going to do that. I will, though, talk about some of the biggest and most important changes and how I think they impact the story. The first one should be pretty obvious. It's in the novelization, if you've read that. It was in a children's storybook I owned before I ever even saw the movie. Most people who know Star Wars know that the original first act of the movie was structured very differently, and focused much more on Luke Skywalker and his personal coming-of-age journey. Ultimately, though, Lucas decided to frame the opening of the movie through the perspective of the droids. As a result, a lot of the early scenes of the movie featuring Luke's daily life were cut. This has the impact of making our introduction to the planet Tatooine more ominous, as seen by the droids, particularly C-3PO. It's a completely unknown entity. We don't know why they're there. We don't know if there's anyone potentially friendly to them there. It's simply a vast ball of sand. It's a fascinating look at one of Lucas's greatest filmmaking strengths, the ability to reshape the story through the edit. Now, I'm not here to tell you what to like. I know some people think the droids going through the desert is kind of dull. But I do think it's interesting how NPR chooses to frame the story differently. The entire first episode, half an hour, is focused exclusively on Luke's life on Tatooine before the events of the movie. His skills as a pilot, how he doesn't fit in, his longing to make something better of his life.
That all you want out of life, to parade around in a fancy uniform?
So what do you want that's so much better, Fixer?
You watch it, boy.
Yeah, just because he can answer fancy trick questions and do schoolbook flight maneuvers, he thinks it makes him better than us.
Yeah, Luke.
While the film opens with the iconic visual of Princess Leia's ship dwarfed by Darth Vader's ship, the radio drama opens with this.
Come on, let's see that tape, Skywalker. Will you? Come on.
Come on,
Cut it out, Wendy.
Applicant's information packet. Imperial Space Academy.
Will you stop?
You're still seeing Novas, huh, Luke? The great Luke Skywalker, hero of the universe. When are you gonna grow up, Luke? You're a farm boy just like me.
Hand it over, Wendy.
It's a much more, for lack of a better term, down-to-earth opening. And while the film is able to deftly capture Luke's sense of longing and adventure through a single image, the radio drama has to play to its strength, dialogue, to establish the same idea. So it makes sense that a lot of these deleted scenes are expanded and added back in. As most people know, perhaps the biggest casualty of those deleted scenes is in the character of Luke's best friend, Biggs.
Well, take it easy, buddy. You'll always be the best friend I've ever had. So long, Luke.
Biggs is the older brother figure to Luke, the one who gets off the planet and joins the rebellion before him, who serves as Luke's wingman and who is ultimately killed during the trench run. In the original cut of the film, all that's left of him is as some random rebel pilot who dies, and Luke acts as if it's important for some reason. The special editions try to rectify this by adding back in part of a scene of the two meeting up right before the battle, so at least you know that these characters have a history. It is kinda too little too late, though. Not only does the radio drama reinstate the scenes where Biggs confides in Luke that he's joining the rebellion, but it also adds in several more. Luke meets up with Biggs on Yavin 4, and Biggs gives him the flight simulator he's required to take so that he can fly an X-Wing in the Battle of Yavin.
Smugglers, droids, and a renegade princess? Oh, you got here in some strange company, but you got here. Well, hop in.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to run a full combat simulation, Luke.
He's given the honor of meeting both of the other lead characters.
Pardon me.
Oh no, it's my fault, really.
Oh, Biggs Darklighter of Tatooine. Meet Princess Leia Organa of Alderaan.
Pleased to meet you, Your Highness.
And you, Biggs, Luke's spoken of you.
Biggs a hometown hero, huh? Luke talked about you. You're on the team too?
Yes. And you?
Not a chance.
And at the very end, Han Solo is still singing his praises.
Too bad about Biggs. And Ben and all the others. They're the ones who deserve the medals.
Well, they died for something they believed in.
Ryan Daly seems to love Biggs, and I love Biggs, so I'm okay with that. While there is a lot of new Luke material, much of it is based on discarded material from the movie. However, the events of the movie don't start until near the end of Episode 3, so all the rest of that, those other 2 episodes, focus on the story of Princess Leia, and that's where the radio drama really shines. Leia's story focuses on her actively joining the rebellion, learning of the Death Star, and ultimately volunteering for the mission to accept the plans that set the movie into motion.
Come in, Skyhook. Come in, Skyhook.
Skyhook here.
We only have moments. Prepare to copy.
Ready and copying. Go ahead.
Enemy 4, this is the Devastator. Our sensors indicate you have intercepted illegal transmissions in this solar system. Heave to, or we'll open fire.
Engage main drive now.
The Devastator has opened fire. Hyperdrive now. We must be stopped.
Engage hyperdrive. Now.
We've made it. We're clear.
And remember, this was 1981. Obviously, this in no way matches how Rogue One tells the same story. I mean, this predates the prequel, so her father is named Prester, not Bale. But at the beginning, she's on a humanitarian mission to a planet occupied by the Empire, where she comes into contact with a rebel soldier who tells her of the Death Star. She and her father lure to Alderaan, an Imperial higher-up who wishes to marry her.
Perhaps you could make yourself clearer, my lord?
A marriage between your daughter and me would benefit all of us.
And what are you offering? As far as I can tell, you're little more than an errand boy for the Grand Moff Tarkin.
The project we're completing will change all that.
And what is this project?
Well, it's still classified.
Then come back when it's unclassified.
So yes, there are actually scenes set on Alderaan, which in the movie is only ever seen from outer space right before it dies. They're hoping to weasel some more information out of the guy, but Leia screws up when she accidentally refers to the space station by name.
A galaxy at your feet.
An empire of oppression? Under a Death Star that will destroy...
Death Star? How did you know that
The subject was marriage, Lord Tyon. I find your proposal...
How did you know that code name?
In the ensuing struggle, she accidentally kills the man with his own blaster, traumatizing her, but strengthening her resolve to retrieve the plans personally. She takes her own ship and uses R2-D2 as a decoy, pretending to effect repairs to explain why they're in restricted space. That in turn inspires her to later place the plans in the droid when the Empire catches up to them. I love these parts. They might be my favorite parts of the entire radio drama. See, while Princess Leia in the movie is a strong character, she's kind of underdeveloped, because she spends most of the movie waiting to be rescued. Here she's given her own hero's journey, which I really appreciate. That said, like the scenes with Luke, it does somewhat dissolve some of the mystery. Since we follow Leia's mission in order rather than falling into it from the middle, we know from the outset why R2 is running off into an escape pod and who he's trying to find on Tatooine. You gain something, you lose something. But that's why I find a different perspective on this so fascinating. And that's a big reason why I love these so much. No matter if you know Star Wars like the back of your hand, this is a new experience. From its radically different takes on the characters, to the alterations and expansions of the story, from its shift from visual to dialogue-driven storytelling, to its full embracing of the serialized format, the Star Wars radio drama is a fresh and exciting way to enjoy Star Wars. And I have to share this one last story. When I first found the radio dramas, it was just a download on the internet. But around this time last year, one of my co-workers passed away from cancer. Not long before she did, I went to go visit her at her house. And we sat around and we talked for a few hours. And she just had this amazing place with all of this wonderful, nerdy stuff that she was more than happy to just show off. And one of the things that I saw that I immediately was so excited about, because I just gotten into it, were CD copies, the official releases of the entire Star Wars trilogy on CD. And like I said, not long after that, she passed away. But her parents were there taking care of her. And they were there when I visited. So I came to work not long after she passed, and I opened my locker to dump my stuff there, and there in my locker were all three of them. Another coworker that had also been visiting her, her parents gave them to him, and he put them in my locker, and I saw them, and I immediately knew where they came from, and I almost broke down and started crying. So, just wanted to say I miss you, Jen, and thank you so much for these. They definitely have a special place on my shelf now. And I loved these radio dramas before, but now they really mean something special to me. So thank you for listening and watching my video on this thing you listened to. But, like I said, there are 3 of these. I only covered the first movie. There are still the sequels. There's still the entire trilogy, Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. So check back in later on and we'll cover these too. Do they hold up to the standards of the original? I guess we'll find out. Thanks so much for watching. I'm always so happy to do something different on my channel. Please let me know what you think. Engage with this video, support on Patreon if you can, and definitely check out the Star Wars radio drama. I'll leave some links to finding them in the description. See you next time!